Alright, I guess it's time to start the thing.
All right.
Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Murder Dog.
So it still feels weird. It still feels weird to say it when it's not Ted. Sorry, Doug.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't blame you one bit. It feels weird to hear you say it when you're not talking about Ted.
Oh no, I have the wrong overlay up. Dun dun dun. It is not the Patreon exclusive hangout. It is the opposite of Patreon exclusive hangout. All right, folks. We had a bunch of technical.
It's been a hectic week.
It has, and YouTube's made. Oh, Comic Book University in the house. Haven't seen
Whoa,
Bill in a
really?
while. Yeah,
Woo-woo!
that's it. Old school.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully everyone is having a good night. We had a bunch of chaos ensue today. So what
Hey.
well, yeah, just in the past since Thursday.
Literally right up until you hit go live.
Yeah, basically.
Speaking of tonight's topic too.
Travel. I had to do some traveling.
Yeah.
So we switched Doug and Ted around tonight, and we were doing this thing in December. You may know about it or you may not, and that is every week we're piling up some stuff and we're gonna give it all away next month with our Patron giveaway. But you don't actually have to just be a patron. You can go over to the website and fill out the form we have to enter our contest and mail that by snail mail to us, and you will get an entry for free, or you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month. But so it's a cool thing. We're clearing out the shelf. We got a bunch of stuff that we want to give away, and each week when we do the live chat, we're just gonna grow the pile until the shelves are empty-ish.
Yeah, you've been sharing out like pictures of the growing pile on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, on Facebook and stuff. So,
okay.
Back to the travel aspect of it, because Ted was supposed to be on. The stuff was all at Ted's house, so I had to run over there and grab that.
Right.
Like any good D&D encounter, you have to deal with things like it's rainy here in New Jersey today. So apparently on the weather chart, rain showed up. And it was rush hour when I made it over there, so we had some traffic to deal with. But fortunately, we did not have any random encounters with any monsters.
That's a nice good thing.
That is always a good thing. And I did return to a friendly encounter via the phone just before going live and got good news. So, which now let's just jump into talking about some D&D and travel, how to make it more interesting. How do we do it in our games? What are the different ways?
One of the things that I've been thinking about all day since we decided to talk about that was one of the tables in the DMG, which I often find whether myself or seeing people on forums and things asking questions like, how do you do this? How do you do that in D&D? Most of the answers are in the DMG. Like if you go back and look, there's a lot of stuff. And one of my favorite things, I just saw it a couple weeks ago because I was just looking through it at like random tables that happen when you're traveling, right? And it was like, 1,000 feet of chain just falls from the sky and like coils up on the ground in front of you. And that was it. I was just like, that's the kind of stuff that can happen. And it just made me think about, like encounters and how even something like weird or just random like that could spark like a whole other side quest or investigation. I mean, I'm sure players would be like, what is that? And you're the DM and you said something that happened, so they must think it's important, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could randomly be like, a lightning bolt strikes a tree, it catches fire, and they'll spend like an hour trying to figure out what that means. Is there a wizard?
Are there runes in the burnt bark? Like, did it make symbols or anything? Yeah.
So you can take anything like that. So I mean, you can handle travel in several different ways. One is you can like do every single part of the journey and make it agonizingly so, where you describe everything. Every day there's random encounters or chances for random encounters. You have all kinds of tables. Or you could, you can do kind of like a zoom in, zoom out, is basically what we do a lot in our games nowadays is when something in our, pretty much travel just kind of happens and goes by. And if something interesting happens, then we kind of like stop and like we'll set a scene and we'll go into a narrative mode. Now I will say the problem with that is that when you do that kind of handle travel that way, like the players always know something's happening, and they're ready for initiative because you generally fast forward a lot. Then there is like you could just literally skip all the travel and not do it at all. One of the things Ted likes to do a lot of times during long travels is give the players agencies and let them come up with some fun and cool ideas for things that happen during the travel, and then that in its essence creates these breaks where we go into narrative mode, but it's being dictated by not the dungeon master but the players.
Both those, and that's the cool thing about being a DM is just when you get have all those things in your toolbox, then you just you don't have to do one or the other all the time. Like one thing I like to do, especially with like a new group, or if it's a one shot, or even like the start of a new campaign, is just throw some sort of I have them traveling to some place and something happens, just to see like what do they do, like what kind of party dynamics will develop from that, especially like if the players don't know each other. And a lot of those out of the box encounters are like that too, I've noticed, where it's just like you're on the road, you're walking through the forest, you're climbing up a mountain. So I imagine our writer Mike Gould's games probably feature a lot of travel like that, right?
I would think so. I mean, that's out of the boxes 50 encounters out of his brain. Yeah, that basically happened that way. So yeah.
But knowing him, and this is the beauty of it, is like I've talked to him at length to chat about all these like dramatic, crazy things that have developed in his campaign, like political stuff, wars, and a lot of them just happened through those kind of encounters by like, well, the players seemed interested in it, so I just went with that direction. And in that way, it's kind of like a procedural world where it's like, yeah, there's stuff happening, but no party's going to encounter all of it in their travels, but the stuff they do is the story that emerges for their characters. So travel can be really a vital thing, to just see what sorts of things interest the players on their way to whatever their goal is. And it kind of develops like B plots too, So it's like, well, if you don't know what to do with your main plot, it's like, hey, that thing they saw on their travel was interesting. Let's go back to that.
One of the things too, like there's a whole gameplay style based on travel too, really, right? Hex crawl, that's all you're doing is traveling from one spot to another, and depending on what's in the hexes will kind of determine what's going on. And that that kind of game is you're basically doing a lot of where you kind of like stay in travel mode. And we've definitely played games like that coming up. One of the earliest games I remember was the GM had put together what he called the special item quest, where I don't really remember the specifics. Narratively, I'm sure it was not amazing, and is definitely behind the times for now. But it was literally just like we were on an adventure a quest to get a special item for each of us.
Oh, it must have been somewhat memorable. I mean, you remember that now?
Oh yeah, I was playing as a teenager, and it was a lot of fun. It was a cool quest to get our D&D cartoon magic item, if you would. And each one was tailored to us. So yes, and that that also kind of like speaks to like the difference in play style in like the my earlier gaming anyway, where it was far less narrative driven. And more like, oh, you're at the dungeon. What do? There's the door.
Yeah, right.
Which kind of is like another way of handling the travel, is like instead of actually, going through it, you just put the players where you want them.
Well, you can kind of make it work to several benefits too. I mean, if you're playing the kind of campaign where there's like, time is of the essence, right? Like something like Tomb of Annihilation, where it's like, oh, the death, if you don't do this soon, like everybody that, is going to die, and, this evil god's going to emerge and destroy everything or whatever, so you're on the clock, right? So, I mean, in those kind of situations, and that is the hex crawl adventure, it's like, that's pretty tense. You know, you can think like, yeah, every time we get, held up, like we get one step closer to doomsday, basically, But on the flip side, if you don't have that kind of time limit on your campaign, then travel can be a lot of fun. And, I find things like Pinterest helpful for uh, my kind of like travel tools when I'm DMing, because it's like there's just so many crazy pictures of like fantasy art that you can just describe to the players and really evoke that kind of like fantastical world that they live in. Like I'm seeing pictures with like 1,000-foot giant skeletons like just half buried in the sand and stuff. Like who knows? Or like that Kobold Press game we played a couple years ago was kind of like that. Remember? And those like Frozen Titans things. That was just what was around when you're walking around.
Yes.
So there's, like travel kind of gives you that chance to illustrate, like, you're in a world, and even if you start small, in your little town or whatever, and I've talked about this with you guys live and privately too. Like when you're traveling in real life, just think like, man, if you had to walk like 15 miles in like full plate armor, that's still a small area, but when there's no cars or planes or anything, a lot bigger. So there's a lot more going on around you than when you just skip all the
Well,
travel.
if you think about just like this past weekend for us, right?
Yeah.
Like we were staying at an Airbnb where the elevator broke down the first day we were there. After the first day we were there, so
Yeah.
like every night, every time you wanted to go somewhere, you had to go up and down 8 flights of steps.
Yeah.
So that I think that's like a good example of like a modern day environmental hazard inconvenience.
Yeah, so and travel is something that like people can relate to, like when we play D&D. Well, you probably can't relate to like, fighting for your life against, things and gore exploding all over you like we describe all the time. Like, oh, you're spattered with the blood. It's just like, oh, it's cool. It's like, well, it's not cool, it's terrible. But travel is something you can relate to, and how, even if you're out to save the universe or whatever, it's like, well, you still get hungry and tired of, and you get lost and you encounter things that you didn't expect. Like you just said, weren't expect that was a random thing that happened. It's like, hey, guess what? The elevator's broken, so you're at disadvantage for your, your heavy breathing check, because we were all huffing and puffing by the time we got up there. That's for sure.
Oftentimes, even if I use kind of a zoomed out approach to travel in D&D or any role play game, really,
Sure.
the same would apply. I still try to take some time to narratively describe some of the things they would have had to deal with. Like if they're traveling for weeks or months, they might have had to deal with a week of rain and being miserable and being soaked, and except for maybe my juggalo goblins who didn't really care because they were high all the time, and rangers. So you definitely want to highlight those things and give them the opportunity to kind of come up. But then also it's like also you have these great opportunities to create challenges that aren't based off of fighting a monster or killing something for its loot. It's just like, oh, you just get hit with a deluge, and now you're stuck in the mud. This is a great place or opportunity to use skill challenges from 4E and kind of incorporate them into the game.
Yeah, and just to like give that sense of verisimilitude, and it kind of makes a different kind of bond for the characters. It's like, yeah, when you're fighting for your life, that's one thing, but when you're like, man, well, we had to push that cart out of the mud, like you didn't even help, like, and it might have just been like they failed their checks or whatever, but the characters don't know, like, hey, I tried, I just failed my check. So it kind of makes those different things, or different dynamics.
Or it's the perfect time to spring a random encounter on them, where they.
I love doing, dude. That is my bread and butter. Like when I did that bounty hunter campaign, I used the chickening out. I was just like, yeah, you're on the boat. You're going to the next place, and the sea sprays on your face, and like, oh, what are you doing on the boat? And they're like, oh, I'm doing this, and then it's like, okay, well, then all of a sudden, like this boat rams into you, and like I like just like, throwing thing like right in the middle when it seems all idyllic.
Yeah.
Or like you said, it's just like you're walking along and like a lightning bolt strikes the tree right next to you, and bursts into flames or whatever. It's fun.
And also like it's also a great place and opportunity to use some tropes that they're used to, and like turn them on their head a little bit, like just the simple broken down wagon, right? Well, all players are just going to expect that that's like a bandit attack waiting to happen, but
Yeah.
you could literally make it just a broken down wagon.
Hmm.
And then maybe you by introducing the NPCs that way, and they do end up helping the NPCs. That can then be a hook into another adventure or plot thread you can introduce to the
Hmm.
party.
Yeah, yeah. Anytime you're throwing anything in front of the players, you basically just like gauging their reaction to see what they're interested in, or at least that's what I try to do, and just make a note of it. It's like, and when I did the fan game last time, I used the Auntie Knows Best thing, and they just like how they reacted to like finding it or like who took what and who learned what. It was interesting, and that was just like something that happened on the road while they were traveling.
So, Chris Tenden, do you ever give exhaustion points for long travels? If you stop at inns, do you just sum up the amount it costs over the week, etc.? So I guess at a certain point, once the player's at a certain point financially, we don't really worry about that so much. I'm not familiar with the exhaustion points that you're talking about. Uh, Hopefully, you don't mean exhaustion from the player's handbook, because after what is it, 6 points you're dead.
Hmm. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're doing a kind of like a hex scroll or something, I mean, I think that is like the standard thing. If you're pushing yourself and trying to walk really fast, speed up your travel, then you gain exhaustion points.
Yeah, you could
Um,
levels of exhaustion. I guess you could
yeah.
make them make con checks if they're pushing themselves. But I would use exhaustion very sparingly. Like if you want really harsh travel,
Hmm.
just get Adventures in Middle Earth and just use the journey section. And it is so brutal. And I mean, if that's the kind of travel you want, you could just incorporate it right into your game. It's kind of like an extended skill challenge that just sucks because we did the adventure, we did the journey phase first, and we did okay with it, and still had one level of exhaustion, and then went right into the adventure.
Hmm.
So doing all your ability checks with disadvantage just sucks.
So
Cause
in that so like I see what you're saying. It's like it does do a good job of simulating that. And I was thinking as you're talking, I'm like, well, that makes sense. If you pushed yourself and tried, and it's perilous wilderness, and you're going to be a little tired when you get there. But then I was thinking, like, yeah, it might be realistic, but then as a game, it's just not fun. It's like I don't want to have to like be the tide against me for the entire adventure because we were tired. But some people dig that kind of stuff. So
well, so here's the thing: one level, okay, it's an inconvenience. But when you start hitting 2 or 3 levels,
oh yeah,
that's gonna
right.
you're just gonna die.
Uh, yeah.
And you literally need days just to recover from that
Mm, right, right.
if you're not extremely high level.
Although, let me ask you this because I haven't actually played much with exhaustion points. So you guys did have the disadvantage the whole time after the long
Oh
travel.
yeah, like I was trying to
So,
convince the party, like maybe we need to take a night's rest or something.
so let me ask you this though, because of that, when somebody did get like a crit or something or like a really good success, was it more exciting though? Because you're like, wow, like it was so
Well,
few and far between.
it's just your ability checks, which would be all
Hmm.
your skills as well
Yeah,
as your initiative.
initiative. Yeah.
So like when we got to the adventure site and there was a puzzle or a riddle to figure out, right? And part of figuring it out was making checks. So like now that
Mm.
became that much harder to figure out because we all had disadvantage.
But that could be really fun, like simulationist though, if you really like
Only if you like
looked
failing.
close. Well, no, I mean, like, if you think about it, like, in terms of really putting yourself in the character's shoes, it's like they just walked, they're really tired and hungry, and you're trying to figure out a riddle and stumbling over, and you'd
Uh,
probably just get irritated with the other people, because, it's just frustrating, like, to be in that situation. So, I guess it just depends on your point of view, like old Ben said.
well, while I agree with you, I definitely do not like simulationist style play.
Oh, yeah, I'm not really into it either. I'm just saying I could see if you were, then that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, and if that's the case, like this is the wrong system for you anyway.
Yeah, right.
Like I feel like people that wouldn't want that would want a much grittier, granular kind of system that incorporates more of that stuff. Where 5e is very, abstract.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You know what's challenging? So we talked about like going from on foot to the next town, and that can be like a long journey, or like sea travel. Space games, it's like wow, that is really challenging to make travel like your montage or hand waving months at a time. I mean,
Oh
even
yeah.
like faster than like I mean, I guess in something like Star Wars, it's a little faster with their when they
Well,
punch
even
it.
Star Trek, you got warp speed.
It takes them a while though to get. I mean,
Oh yeah, but
they'll say like set course for then it's like 3 weeks to get to where they're going and stuff.
sure. But
Quite a while.
look at Next Gen, right? How many times was like the episode was based on something they randomly
Oh yeah.
rolled up onto, so it's
Uh
definitely
huh.
still there.
Hmm.
So, speaking of travel and journeys, we did a little bit of that this weekend. As we mentioned, we were at PAX Unplugged, and we were given some stuff to give away. So, whenever we're giving stuff to give away, we like to show it off before it goes in the giveaway pile and thank those that gave it to us. From Mage Hand Press, we have a copy of Dark Matter, which seems like a good segue.
Hmm.
It's a pretty beefy book, and basically this is, sci-fi D&D, and it's designed to not just be able to use sci-fi elements with your D&D game. It doesn't replace any of the D&D game, right? Everything that you would normally use in D&D is here. It just adds to it, and that was their goal. There's quite a few different systems out there that do sci-fi with D&D. But they replace instead of
Where
add
it's like there's all lasers and new races and stuff. That's like there's still elves and dwarves and all that.
And they just add to it. So also from 2C Gaming, they gave us 2 books for us to offer up. We've got the Total Party Kill Handbook, ready to run encounters, traps, and challenges. And that's also a decent sized book.
Yeah, that is a hefty tome.
So you'll be seeing these again. And we also have the Epic Legacy Core Rulebook. So I believe this is the book for running past level 20.
So, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Does that have like the mythic monsters in it too, like the threats for the characters that are that high?
So this takes you all the way up to 30th level, and yes, it does. Like this handsome fella here. So both of those are going into, or all 3 of those are going into the giveaway pile. Thank you to Mage Hand Press and 2C Gaming. So if you happen to be a patron, or if you want to every month send us one of those forms on the website under contests and giveaways, there's a tab for it. You can get the form printed out, mail it to us, and you get a free entry. And if you're a patron at any level, you're just automatically entered. Now, aside from that stuff, we're doing a big giveaway next month. We're clearing out some of the stuff, and so what we have here is we've got a bunch of Reaper minis that were showed off last week. With you and Ted, I believe, Doug?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
As well as a Talon Games set of minis here. And, you will also be posting them on social media. And like we said, we showed this stuff off last week. Effing cool minis. We've got 7 packs of those as well. We have Beer Inspiration tokens.
Is that like the last of those?
That is the last of the Beer Inspiration tokens.
Man, I like no joke. Those are pretty. That's kind of like a rare item. I mean, if you're really into Nerdarchy, it's like that'd be a good giveaway to win. It's the last one. There is no more.
Unless you're not into Nerdarchy, you might not care. And then we also have then we have the Pathfinders Adventure Game core set, as well as the expansion for it in the giveaway pile as well. That's just the stuff we had put in last week. But this week we have more
Crazy Ted's giveaway.
We've got a set of GaryCon exclusive dice that are going in there. Then we've got, let's see, I believe these are Mage Knight minis. There's 3, 4, 6 of these that are going in. We've got a bag of coins. And I'm not going to say where they came from because I don't know for sure. Because it's just a sack of coins, and I don't want to call out the wrong people for these. But coins, you can use them for inspiration or even for a prop in your game.
Mm-hmm.
We also have an Easy Roller Dice Cup. This is pretty nice. We have a Froghemoth from Pacesetter Games.
Oh, that is a super cool mini.
It is a great miniature. So if you're into minis, this is going to be a great giveaway. Mm-hmm. Pixelscapes.
Oh, wow.
Jen from Pixelscapes had done us in her crazy art style.
That's awesome.
So, so that was pretty... That was
I want to win that.
I don't think you can enter. You're an employee.
There's no terms. Don't play handbook yet.
From Nord, we have Game Master's Toolbox, Ultimate NPCs, and Skullduggery.
Dude, that book is awesome.
So for your 5e game.
Yeah.
Some good stuff there. But we're not done. We got one more. Book of Lost Spells from Necromancer Games. So,
that looks
also cool. 5e compatible. And next week, we're going to add more stuff to this pile. It is just getting bigger and growing. And that'll be...
insane!
And that stuff will be going out the door in January. So, if you get us a submission form or become a patron for even $1, you're in for that.
Yep.
So... That's a cool thing. We figured it's the holiday season. Why not? I'll have to see what else Ted has for us next week. Now I'm kind of curious. It's going to cost us a fortune to ship this stuff.
Excuse me.
So that's always awesome. So like I said, we got some new stuff from our travels. Mm-hmm. And that was good because we went to PAX Unplugged. I wonder if anybody in the chat here was at PAX Unplugged this past weekend.
Man, I'll tell you, there's so many cool vendors and cool creators with their products and board games and accessories and just, all kinds of stuff. And meeting up with people that you meet online is the best part of travel, though. And the food. I love going to new restaurants. We had some good stuff in that regard. But PAX was pretty cool. That was my first time there. I mean, you guys go every year. Literally,
we've been to all the unplugs. It's right in our backyard. Crazy Hermit DM, when is the giveaway? It's our normal monthly giveaway. So next month when we announce the giveaway, everything we accumulate each week in December is going to one winner. Like I said, although if you're not into minis, this giveaway so far is going to suck. I mean, there's other cool things. But
what are you talking about? There's a bunch of books and
there's a bunch of cool stuff. You're going to have all these minis. I guess just re-gift them.
Yeah, there you go.
Somebody in your group is probably a minis person.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's
on eBay.
There you go. But no, the books are awesome. And Dice Cup, and there's plenty of stuff. Dice. Yeah,
that frog. Yeah.
The Froghemoth is pretty nice. Intern Jake, who's no longer our intern, had painted one for us, and it looks so good.
Man, he is so good at painting. Was that for the what was that? The Circle from Beyond?
Yes, the Circle from Beyond Druid Druid Circle we made, which was a ton of fun.
Okay. Yeah, that was messed up. Where just nobody would see what was really happening to the creatures in the area. Yeah. They're just getting torn apart by invisible tentacles from another dimension.
So I will say PAX Unplugged, that is my favorite convention for food.
Really?
Yes, I think... Look, maybe I might be a little
biased. Philly proud.
I might be a little biased, but Philly and New York has some of the best food in the world.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's their classic restaurant times. Well, I had the best sushi I've ever had in my life on this travel.
Nice.
Traveling trip.
So we went to this Moroccan restaurant. It's like you can only go by reservation, and it's weird when you go there. Like literally, it looks like you're gonna get stabbed, like an Indiana Jones movie style, right? It definitely had that feel to it. Like you need a reservation to go, and then you have to go down like an alley, and then there's an alley off the alley to where the restaurant is, and then there's like a bunch of people standing outside because they're waiting for their reservation. But you can't go in. You can't just walk in. You got to ring the doorbell, and someone lets you in. And like so the gentleman comes to the door. He lets us in. He's like, "Oh, your party's already. You're waiting through this curtain and to the left." And so you sit around these tables, and they're just really like giant metal trays that they set on the stand. And there's a bunch of couches. So they seat you. And I also think this is like great inspiration for if you're running D&D games, you want to do something different with your like taverns or dining or whatever.
That's exactly what I was.
But they sit you around the table, and then they come out with a pile of towels, and they just throw them on your lap. And these are like the towels you would find in your bathroom that you would use. No frills, nothing special. And then after that, they bring out this water basin and a kettle, and then they have everyone wash their hands as they pour the warm water over your hands. And then from there, they proceed to bring out like seven courses of meals, and all of it is eaten like there isn't really utensils. It's all eaten with that bread. What's it called? Naan. Where you break off the bread and you use that kind of like to scoop the food, and it was so good.
Yeah, and like you said, that could absolutely just be those little details that you just add in when they stop in a tavern. And I was thinking about that the whole time you're talking. It's so kind of cliche where like when they go to the tavern, there's elven wine and dwarven beer and beef stew and all that. But it's like, think about it. I mean, there's and that's just different cultures of humans on Earth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you think like if you're in a city like Waterdeep or something, there's probably a bazillion places to eat that serve all kinds of weird stuff, or it would seem weird. It's like just their cultural things. And what I was also thinking, like the one place we went, they're like, oh, we only take payment by like cash or Venmo. And I was like, well, what if you go to the tavern, like we only take Electrum? Like what?
Nobody uses Electrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, you're gonna have to go. We can't take copper, silver, gold, or platinum. It's just Electrum.
Also, you got
or gems.
you guys and gals, if you were not at the restaurant with us, you missed watching Nerdarchy and Dave get up there and dance with the belly dancer, because they have a belly dancer that goes around, and they try and get different people to come up and dance and make fools of themselves. And yes, I am that fool. The Moroccan place was the same way, cash only, and I didn't know that. I didn't know you tipped belly dancers like strippers.
I don't have any experience with belly dancers. So.
I mean, neither did I. But one of the people that was like, "Hey, do you have any singles?" And so apparently, like the belly dancers go around and dance, and they take tips.
Make it rain.
Make it rain.
Crazy Hermit DM wants to know: will you announce the winner over the Patreon Monday chat? No, I think we're still keeping the giveaway until
Tuesday.
December is over. Right?
Yeah, it is. But when we announce it, it gets announced in the Tuesday night live chat, and whoever wins will get an email. So,
how else are you supposed to make it sound awesome to all the people that aren't Patreons? Like, hey, here's what you could have got.
Yeah.
Or you could mail it in by snail mail.
You can mail it in for free by snail mail after you give the postal service their due.
Yeah.
So at that point, it would have just been easier to pledge $1.
Yep. Yes.
But, like, I think also you can take, like, going back to the idea of travel and D&D,
okay,
you can take your real-world experiences and kind of insert that into your game, right? If you think about it. Like, me and Ted, not that long ago, flew out to Ohio to go hang out with DM Scotty and Gareth from DMG Info. And, we thought we were going to get on the plane, take a nap, and get where we're going. Nope. We are sitting there waiting to get on the plane.
And a dragon attacked.
And a dragon attacked. Son of a bitch. No. And this guy just walks by, and I was wearing a D&D shirt, and he's like, "Oh, that's a great shirt. I like it. Do you guys play?" We're like, "Yeah, we have a YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "Oh, that's nice." So we get on the plane. It just so happens that he's like one row ahead of us, diagonal across, and Ted's like, Do you want to give him some of the Nerdarchy swag? So when we travel, we usually have Nerdarchy branded D6s, and we have our stickers. And I was like, I don't know. We usually give them to fans. And Ted's like, well, maybe we can make him a fan. I'm like, I guess, but we left a car battery at home this time. No. So I'm like, sure. And I handed it over to him, and that sparked the conversation of us just talking about D&D from the time we took off to the time we landed. It turns out that he was, closer to our age. He just got back into it. And his way of getting back into it was to buy the stuff and start playing with his kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he has, his daughters and their friend and their friend's mom that used to play in that game. And then he's got another game with his sons and their friends. So it's also cool to see, the different way people interact with the game. So when we landed in Ohio, our plan was to grab an Uber, and this guy was like, "Hey, if you don't mind and it's not too weird, I can drop you off if it's not too far out of the way." And it turned out that it was literally basically right off an exit that he had to go by anyway. So it was less than 5 minutes, and he gave us. We did not get murdered. And we got a ride out of it, and maybe another Nerdarchy fan, I don't know, but it was cool to just talk to another person in the D&D community, mm-hmm. And and so you could bring that into your game, right? Maybe it's not D&D, but what if it's something like a certain sword that one of your characters is carrying, and only
maybe the guy recognizes the
mark,
yeah. Blacksmith's mark or something.
Yeah, or is the person that made it, right? And they just got it from, and they just picked it up from, the general store or whoever sells stuff in your campaign world. Mm-hmm. So you can use stuff like that to create these role-playing opportunities in the game.
Yeah. And it makes the world seem more real. Somebody had to make that sword. Maybe it's like undercover blacksmith, where it's just he goes around oh, where'd you get that sword? After I slew the orc chieftain, recovered it from his treasure hoard, or whatever. It's okay, that's
or one of the characters, maybe they have an accent, right? And an NPC mm-hmm. notices it. Maybe they're not from there, but maybe they visited there, and you could spark a conversation that way.
Yeah, I mean, even in the real world, the people that live a state away have different accents, or even in the own state. I mean, people in Southern Ohio have a little bit more of a drawl. My voice is really nasally, like many Northeast Ohioans. So yeah, just something like that. It could have been from around your same town, maybe grew up near you. Who knows? What other gamer that likes to travel a lot is that Scott from Brooklyn Scott, who's not from Brooklyn.
He's not from Brooklyn.
He travels for his D&D passion, that's for sure.
He's only gone a couple places. He's only done the castle a couple times, France and UK.
Everything I've done in this year.
I think he might have did D&D live too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he did.
He's like, you guys make it sound like I do everything. I'm like, well, now that I think of now that Doug has sleuthed it, I think maybe he does.
He's really passionate about D&D. He's a cool guy. He's fun.
The beauty of
discretionary... he often just travels by himself.
Yeah, he does do that. The beauty of discretionary income.
Mm-hmm.
And he's fun to play with. Because no matter what accent he does, there's always that underlying thick New York accent that's just inescapable.
Well, the more I think about it throughout this chat, travel has really formed character bonds in pretty much every time I run a campaign, whether it's a short couple of sessions or a one shot. There's always some element of travel, because it's really when it's not related to the reason they're when it's on the way to the thing, I think players kind of intrinsically know, like, well, this isn't directly related to the plot, but it is something happening. And they tend to act a little bit different, and they sort of role play more with each other. It seems like a lot. It's because they know, maybe there's not as much pressure because it's like, oh, this is just the thing that's happening. Um, so yeah, it's kind of a good way to sort of let people role play to like encourage them to look around and ask questions and describe things, kind of get a feel for the setting and for each other. And then when you throw something, whether they show interest. Oh, here's a good example. So in campaign, they were just traveling a new area that they had discovered, or that they came across, and there was there was a giant tree in the distance, and I just thought it'd be cool because I saw it on Pinterest. Like, oh yeah, it's just humongous, like up to the clouds. Not that tall, but pretty tall. And they went up to it, and I was like, maybe there's probably people that live in it, and there's a secret door. And they couldn't find it, so they just were like, well, let's try to climb it. That looks fun, because they weren't on any agenda. They were just exploring. And they had like an impromptu climbing competition and, yada, yada, yada. But it was just something I described while they were traveling in the distance. And they thought, like, thought it sounded cool, like a cool detail, but it piqued their interest, and they made their way all the way over to it and led to all sorts of other adventures. So
I think it's funny that your players decided to have a climbing contest.
Oh yeah. Well, they again, like when you're the DM, when you just say things, like, people tend to think they're really important. Like it must mean something. We must have to go. This, you wouldn't have said there's a big tree if there wasn't any reason for it. When in fact there was no reason other than I thought it sounded cool to describe that in the
Surprise!
Countryside.
Yeah, that is something that definitely happens. So Andy has a question, a little off topic, Dave, but have you ever played, or have you ever ran or played in the various Oriental Adventure stuff? So in AD&D, Oriental Adventures came out, and although today they would never name it that,
No.
It was a great book. The cover was amazing. It's like probably one of my favorite covers, with the
Yeah, that's badass.
I guess the samurai on the Fu Lion with his katana.
And the ninja.
Yeah,
Kusarigama.
Yes, which was great. We definitely made characters for that. I even think we played a session or two. Story of my life.
Yeah, same here, man. That's word for word. That is my experience with that. Awesome cover, cool stuff inside. Made a ton of characters. Probably played once, maybe twice.
I believe I played some kind of Henku. Were they called Henku? The animal people?
They were like the fox people and stuff like that.
Well, they had a bunch of different kinds.
I think it was like Henga Yokai.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I like the Wu Gen with like the kind of elemental magic powers are cool. And, dead samurai and ninja and stuff too. So all the weapons. I mean, big part of the appeal, I'm sure this is true of you. I'm sure you looked at like Black Belt magazine when you were a kid and you're like, yeah, I want a Kusarigama and the claws, ninja stars. Yeah. I know the ninja toe you can use as a blowgun or a breathing tube under the water. Grappling hooks. Yeah, all that shit. Sorry, stuff.
No, absolutely. But yeah, we definitely played at least a session or two of that.
Yeah.
And probably we made up so many more characters for it than we played with. And also, didn't it have another stat in it that wasn't in the rest of the game?
It might have included comeliness because it was around the same time as Unearthed Arcana came out. Or it could have been like honor or something like that.
Yeah, now it would just be Wasi. What do they call it? Waxia?
Wuxia.
Yeah, they would just do like a Wuxia's adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, that has a travel element to it. I mean, to stay on topic, I mean, that whole kind of subgenre of, mythical martial arts people that just travel around the countryside seeing who the most badass dude is. That sounds like a fun campaign. I mean, if you, pitch it like that, like, yeah, you're going to go around, you're going to meet a lot of colorful NPCs. People just fight each other to prove whose Kung Fu is the best. And that's the world you live in, the Wuxia world.
Well, plus, like, that's all, like, also, that's, like, a lot of the wire food type stuff.
Yeah, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That's what the...
And what was the other one that was pretty popular here in the States was Hero?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Spoilers, guys, so jump right now if that bothers you. When he dies at the end, and there's the whole entire wall is nothing but arrows, but where that guy was standing,
Oh yeah, or they were fending off the arrows with like the calligraphy brushes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I used to love Saturday afternoons for that reason. Kung Fu Theater was the best. Like
Hmm.
I would love to play in a campaign that was very much based off of that, and with the fantastical elements.
I'll tell you what is one thing interesting about players when you do try to, focus on just travel, right? Is they'll just invent stories whether you like it or not. I've pitched campaigns where it's like, yeah, there is no like main villain. I just want to play like adventures. Like you're just adventurers, and they'll just, like if something happens on a trip or while they're traveling, they'll just invent their own story. They're like, well, that must mean something. They want to investigate it, even if you're explicitly like, there's nothing going on. Like you're just gonna go around fighting monsters and stuff. They just
Well,
crave that story.
that's kind of cool too. Is like because you can take that and build the narrative with your players, and
Hmm.
it gives them the opportunity to kind of build that narrative, even though you didn't
Yeah.
have it. So why not just throw it in there and run with it?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, once I kind of like recognize at least the players of my group. I was like, all right, if they're gonna do that, then that saves me a hell of a lot of work as a DM. It's like I don't even have to think of a plot. They'll do everything. I just have to put stuff in front of them and then kind of like figure out some connective tissue between sessions. Or maybe like refer to the previous stuff once in a while. And I love it.
Yeah, Scott McLean. Yeah, Dave. Growing up, it was WWF, then Kung Fu Theater. Also, there was like the kaiju monster movies in there as well somewhere. So
Well, if there's
Saturdays were
any
great.
if there's any Clevelanders, we had Superhost who would host all that stuff on Saturday afternoon. It was just this like middle-aged guy in like a bargain basement Superman costume, and like he had like kid like Chuck Taylors and like just gym shorts over like blue footy pajamas or whatever. But yeah, he hosted like the wrestling, the movie of the afternoon, which was like Godzilla, like then Kung Fu Theater. He was a beloved Cleveland icon on Saturday afternoon TV.
Yeah, Saturdays were really rough for my younger brothers
Yeah.
because you can't go watching wrestling and then Kung Fu Theater and not beat up your
Yeah.
younger brothers.
Get over here. I'm gonna power bomb you through the couch.
Yeah,
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, when I don't know how old we were, and there's a reason why they have those warnings now. I might have been that
Because of
reason.
you, Dave.
I could have been. I did grab my younger brother and pile drive him. I was like, "Come here, let's try this," and he's like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
Yeah, my brother was a power bomb fan, so I got power bombed a lot.
It was no
Sid
good.
Vicious style.
It's no good to be the younger sibling.
Nah. Um,
That's what they get for being born too late.
mhm. I
Totally,
guess so.
totally their fault.
I got all the good luck stuff and the brains. So
There you go. You did get
sorry.
that sweet nerdarchy job for whatever
That's
worth.
right. Yeah, I'm loving life. Except for all the travel hecticness has put me behind on that sweet nerdarchy stuff. I mean, really, that was a lot of travel stuff. Like I got there early. I had to wander around Philly with my luggage for like 7 hours.
Yeah.
So then my computer died. Yeah, travel
All
was great.
all that good
So
stuff.
so when it comes to RPGs, GM Doug and player Doug gives two thumbs up to travel. When it comes to real life Doug right now,
Not so much.
I'm good. I'm gonna get the clothes on my house in the next couple weeks, and I ain't going anywhere.
Ever again.
I'm going to Nerdarchy. I told these guys, I'm like, I'll travel to Nerdarchy the convention, and if you absolutely need me to go somewhere else next year, I'll do that. But I'm gonna save all my money to blow it out at Nerdarchy the convention. And a lot of other people are traveling there too, next Halloween weekend.
Oh, it's going to be a blast.
It is. There's a lot of people, like guests and people that have like gotten badges already. Oh, Scott
Tell
McClay, yeah, with all random encounters. What are you talking about?
wait a minute. There's one
Oh,
random counter that
Yeah,
stands
yes.
out above them all.
Okay, so during that 7 hours wandering around downtown Philly with my bag, broad daylight, I'm on Arch Street, which is like a main street in the town, right, convention center. This Guy just walking down the street just whips it out and starts number one right on the sidewalk, like right in front of a picture, like a store window.
Yeah.
And I talked to Dave later. I said, actually, I told three people this story word for word. They're all like, "Welcome to Philly," and I was like, is that like the Philly thing? It's like on the sign, like, "Welcome to Philly." People just pee in broad daylight.
Watch a homeless guy pee.
Yeah. Crazy. Maybe it's a local custom, so you could do that in your D&D game. You'd be like, "Yeah, man, just whips it out and starts peeing on the street." It's like, "Well, it's just a local custom here."
90s had Kung Fu with David Carradine as Kersey Hermit DM, and that was him just traveling from place to place.
Yeah. The Incredible Hulk was Bill Bixby was a big travel enthusiast on that show. He had to travel from place to place so they wouldn't destroy the lives of the people around him.
So, well, now you can take all your travel,
and that's like players too. They do too.
You can take all your travel angst and everything you dealt with over the weekend and just compress it deep down into a ball to then unleash upon your players. You can hit them with everything. Although, if you want to be able to truly role play the beggar experience in your D&D game, go to Philly into Center City, and you will be accosted by plenty of homeless people throughout your visit.
So what's the equivalent of your laptop dying, like the Wizard's spellbook dying? It's like, after all that, you get home and your spellbook's just blank, man. All the spells are gone. Like, can't get them up. Can't get them.
Son of a monkey's uncle. I hate when that happens. Sorry for the humming sound. Someone had mentioned it.
Is that me?
No, it's me. It might be the heater in the background or something. Because I am in the basement.
Well, for the next couple of weeks, I do live in an apartment that is close to the street, so it could always be cars going by. But soon I'll have my own Nerder Doug office, and then I will join them in the basement. Wink.
What does it mean? What does it all mean? Yeah. So that'll definitely be cool. And congratulations on getting your first home.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. It's a lot of paperwork.
Or condolences. Oh, you think you've seen paperwork? Wait till you have to sign for everything.
Well, I'll tell you what, and this is no offense to either homeowners or parents. Y'all are both the same in that a lot of my friends that are homeowners and kids are always like so envious, like, "Oh man, you don't own a home," or "You don't know, you don't have kids. It's so easy." Everything has pros and cons. So I mean, I'm sure there'll be times I'm like, "Oh, this sucks," but there's times living in an apartment that sucks too. So that's just life, and you roll with it. Whether it's your troubles with your house or your kids or your travel arrangements, you just roll with it. Roll the dice and see what happens.
Something about the grass and the other side.
Yes.
It's always greener on the other side.
That's right.
While living in an apartment, you don't own anything, but there's there's definitely a beauty to that. Like when stuff doesn't work, you can just call somebody like, "Yo, this needs to get fixed," or you don't get your money.
Yeah.
So when you're the homeowner and things don't work, you're like, "Who am I going to call to fix this?" And it's going to cost me money.
Mm-hmm. Hold on, I feel compelled to answer this question before we go because it's such a great. I'm still in disbelief. So AJS 1031 asks, "Is that cat tower in the back homemade or store bought?" It's bought from Wayfair, and as a longtime cat owner, I've seen cat trees half that size for twice that price. I was only $60.
That is a good deal.
Endorsed by Wayfair or anything, but it is very sturdy.
Not a sponsor.
Yeah.
Not that we're against Wayfair.
Yeah. This video is brought to you by Wayfair Cat Trees. Need a huge cat tree for good cost?
for your pet or tabaxi.
Yeah. There you go. You can do like top 10 tabaxi.
That would be an oddly specific sponsorship.
Yeah.
Wayfair cat tree. Well, it's about that time when we wrap this thing up, but we'll be back next Monday with our patron-only live chat, and then Tuesday we'll be back and we'll be entering more stuff into the giveaway pile. So until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.